Give me the thumbs up, Rossi, when it's ready. We're good? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second meeting of Lawrence County Council for October 2020. At this time, I will call this meeting to order. This time, I will invite you to stand for the invocation provided by Councilman Carroll, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we do thank you for the blessings and freedoms we have to be here tonight to do the business of Lawrence County. We ask that you be with us as any decisions we make that are guided on your principles and that are pleasing in your sight. But we ask you to be with our country and our county as we vote and we elect our new leaders, that it be what's best for this county and this country. Lord, be with those who are impacted by the virus tonight, bring them back to their wanted help if it be in your will. All these things we ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Going to take a point of privilege here. Mr. Brown Passion just sent me a note to ask us to have a moment of silence for the fallen Greenville deputy, and I think that is certainly appropriate. And so at this time, I will ask you to join me in a moment of silence, and I will close with prayer. Let us pray. Good and great God, we come before you this evening, asking you to place your hands of peace on this fallen deputy's family. Give them encouragement, strength, and what is needed for these days and weeks and months to come. God, you are the giver of strength and the healer of life. In your name, we ask for those two things for this fallen deputy and his family. For it's in Christ's name I pray. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Patterson, for that reminder. And next is an approval of the agenda as submitted. However, before I ask for that approval, under new business number 8, letter E, as chairman, I will assign that EMS exempt employee to the Committee on Health and Emergency Services, chaired by Garrett McDaniel, members Joe Wood and Jeff Carroll. I know it is closing in at the end of the year. However, Mr. Kamey did ask that before you three leave tonight, if we could establish a time for that committee meeting to occur, he would certainly appreciate that. So, letter 8E will be assigned to a committee. So it will be, we will strike that from this agenda. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Chairman, I move for approval of the agenda to be our guide this evening with the deletion of 8E.
There's a motion by Ms. Anderson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Patterson. Council, if y'all would, make sure your mic's on and talk closely into the microphone so they can pick you up, so I don't get a text up here reminding me of that. Okay, we've got a motion that's been properly seconded. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. Next is the approval of the minutes from the meeting dated October 13th, 2020, regular session. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carroll.
Second.
Second by Mr. McDaniel. Any additions or deletions? Hearing none. All in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted, signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. Next, we'll move into reports to council. This time I recognize Finance Director Lisa Kirk for the fiscal year FY 2021 month 3 September report. Ms. Kirk.
Thank you. You have received your reports in your packet. Does anyone have questions?
Are there questions?
Did we ever receive, have we received this?
No, ma'am, not yet. Week
I'm
before
sorry.
last, I got confirmation that, our SC CARES Act had been accepted. So it's just a matter of them processing the payment back to us. They have not requested any additional information. That's everything up to June 30th. FEMA has requested a narrative, and I'm working with Mr. Avery to get that accomplished, to send in to get our funds from the FEMA side of everything. The second part of the SC CARES Act is due next week. So that is from July 1st until November. So we will be, department heads are working on getting that information to me now so we can submit it for the second phase of the funding from the SC CARES Act.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Kirk.
Mr. Pitt?
Yes.
If I could, I would like to publicly thank Joey Avery. After being quarantined last week due to exposure, Mr. Avery was very kind, compassionate, there for me, from texting to checking on me, to making sure everything was okay, scheduling everything, and he was just great, and I want to publicly thank him for it.
Well, thank you. And Mr. Avery's not here tonight, but we'll certainly make sure that he is told what you said. And I have to echo those same sentiments for all of the residents of the county. Joey has worked extremely hard, as well as all of our county employees, but especially Joey in this pandemic. So thank you for that. Speaking of pandemic, Mr. Kamey will be providing that update in Mr. Avery's absence. So Mr. Kamey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have a whole lot to report in terms of the numbers. The numbers that we're seeing are getting worse, at least in the nation. And it's kind of all over the place for the state. But I do want to point out in terms of the Hillcrest facility, we held a phone conference this afternoon, and security is still out. And that will be out all of next week. So we're talking about the second, actually this week. Time's getting ahead of me. So that'll be next Monday, the 2nd of November. Hillcrest is scheduled to be reopened for folks to enter into the building. The auditor, on behalf of the treasurer, the auditor has asked that folks that need to do business with the county, a lot of folks are paying their bills now and getting their bills straightened out with the auditor's office and whatnot. They've asked that if folks could come next week, it would help them out a lot rather than all the traffic that's going through the drive-through now. So they're asking that folks please try to work with those two offices and the treasurer and the auditor's office in terms of paying their bills. They've also coordinated with the probate's office, the clerk of court's office, and the other offices on that end of the hall to try to minimize the amount of traffic that's coming through the drive-through, because again, the drive-through is quite busy with folks trying to pay their tax bills. So again, Hillcrest will be open for business. Security detail will be back in place Monday. That's next Monday, November 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Kamey. Does anyone on council have any questions or comments for Mr. Kamey? Hearing none, we will move into the old business. First is the second reading, ordinance number 884. I'm going to not try to pronounce the name, but the fee and lieu agreement, I'll defer to Mr. Crookshanks for that. Go ahead.
That's Fukoku, Mr. Chairman.
I've tried to pronounce it. I just can't.
I understand.
Can we appreciate them? I just can't pronounce
We
it.
absolutely do. This is the extension of an agreement we've had with for COCU for a number of years that I think dates back to actually 2001. This will allow them to continue to invest and to be in a multi-county park and participate in a fee in lieu to extend it by a period of 10 years. And we would certainly recommend, as they have been good taxpayers in this county, we would certainly recommend second reading approval of 884.
You've heard the recommendation from the county attorney. Is there a motion to approve on second reading ordinance number 884?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Patterson,
Second.
second by Ms. Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is a public hearing for ordinance number 885, reassessment postponement. This time I will open the floor. You can speak for or against ordinance number 885 at this time. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve on third and final reading ordinance number 885, postponing reassessment. And Mr. Satterfield, our county assessor, is here. If anyone of the council has a question to ask of Mr. Satterfield. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move for third reading approval of ordinance 885.
I got a motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Mr. Wood. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Can I see the hands again? I'm sorry. Is that 7-0? 7-0. Next is a report for solid waste maintenance shop. At this time, I'll recognize Chris Gerder, Billy Wilson, and Dale Satterfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council. At last council meeting, we were instructed to begin to try to investigate the cost and how we would construct a vehicle truck maintenance facility at the landfill. Shortly after that, I was asked also to add to that, getting a price from Hogan, who is building our transfer station currently, to see what they would also do through a change order to build that facility for us. So we're still waiting on that pricing. But if in your agenda package, you see a footprint of what we think Chris would need. It involves a building that is 60 foot deep, 80 foot across. And that shaded area, what we intend to do, or hopefully we can do, is utilize the current building where they keep their maintenance tools, compressors. They can get a pickup truck in that building, but utilize that slab in that building, and also the restroom that is in that building currently. And then we would just add these two bays to the left of that building, trying not to remove anything that we can use to reduce the cost. There is some concern from one of the contractors we were working through as far as getting a metal building kit in a timely manner before the end of the year. And they said that they're seeing price adjustments quite often in metal buildings because of the steel industry. But we're not asking for action tonight. I wanted to present what our findings are so far, and hopefully we'll have a recommendation to you by the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Satterfield. We will receive this as information, but at this time, I will open the floor for any questions or comments from council members.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Patterson.
Is the 165 just for the concrete in the building?
That's the concrete in the building, and hopefully we think that would provide for some insulation and the 4 doors. Now, Mr. Wood made a excellent recommendation. We had 12-foot doors. We probably need to expand those to 14 foot with an 8-foot truck and the mirrors. So,
Unless you want to replace them there now.
I apologize. I'm fighting some seasonal allergies.
How about for heat? I don't know that we'll try to air condition it, but I'm sure we'll try to heat it, hoist, lifts, any of that stuff when be taken into consideration with the price.
We have not taken that into consideration. We're trying to do this in a phased approach, and this is just the building. and everything in it to work on trucks. Now, they currently have a heater in the existing building, but I would not even begin to think that would heat this larger building. And, yeah, currently they utilize the evaporative fan.
Mr. Wood,
Mr. Chairman,
is your microphone on, Mr. Wood? Microphone, is it on?
yes, can you,
No.
green lights, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? I certainly don't want to do anything to, slow down this process, but I just want to put a little bit of my feelings out here about this thing. I know I read the whole thing, you know, about talking about building one building to share for everybody in the county, and I just don't feel like that would actually work for what we want to do here, because like EMS, they do no maintenance work, they farm out their work. And the fire service is a special service tax district, and you can't commingle the funds with county funds. You're not supposed to. Solid waste, they are kind of a system on their own. They do their own maintenance, and they work on these $250,000 vehicles and equipment. They've got nowhere to achieve this except outside in the dirt and gravel, and that's just not sufficient to do this as far as changing oil or other maintenance work. And you have many hydraulic hoses on these vehicles, and you get dirt inside these hydraulic systems, you ask trouble. I mean, it can really create big money problem, getting dirt in hydraulic systems. And I'd already talked to Mr. Satterfield about the doors, and I've had experience with doors and getting big trucks in and out, and really need money on 14-foot doors. But I just hope that we can do this. It's very much needed. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so noted. Any others? All right, thank you, Dale, Chris, and Billy for your continued work to getting this information. Certainly appreciate that. Next, we move into items of new business. And this is a request from the solid waste department. This time I'll recognize Chris Gerger and I believe Billy Wilson.
Thank you all. What you have in your packets, we're talking about the scale, the existing scale versus a new scale system put in. We had thought about moving the scales from where they are now. The system is reloading, so I can't pull up a footprint of the landfill, but you all have been out there, so got an idea of what we're looking at. But the new scales will be put down next to the transfer station. Well, when you have traffic coming in, going straight to the transfer station, weighing and everything, and then commingling traffic coming in that's going to dump debris, limbs, tires, scrap metal, things like that, they're going to have to cross those new set of scales and loop around and come back and go back through the landfill, unload, and then come back out and weigh again, because that's weighing coming in, weighing going out. That's where the revenues are going to come from. I put in 3 quotes in there in the packet. Your first quote is if we just go ahead and move the scales, the existing scales we have, and just use the one set of scales. You're looking at about $8,000. Now, tricky part is moving those scales down to the new scale house. If anything goes wrong, anything whatsoever, those things are made up of cells. And I had 6, I was wrong, there are 8 cells in there. You're looking at rebuilding the whole system at about $35,000. We can get a new set of scales for $55,431.51. That would give us 2 sets of scales. Leave the old set where they are, untouched, and have a brand new set at the new scale size. That's what we're asking for. That's our best recommendation, is to get the new scales for the new scale size.
Okay, you heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the expenditure of $55,431.51 for the specific purposes of purchasing and installing new scales?
Can I ask a question first before you get a vote?
You may, go ahead.
Oh, if you move these scales, you got to put money, you got to pay somebody to come in there and move those scales and calibrate them and everything, and put them back together. That's gonna get into what kind of expense?
That was the first quote. That was around $8,000.
See, you'd save that off of that $55,000, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
So you're really not,
You're really not spending the whole 55. We're gonna have to spend $8,000 to $10,000 regardless if you move them. So you back that off the 55, so you really,
so you'd save money in the long run by not moving those scales. If it just $7,000, $8,000, that would come off that $55,000. Okay, that was my question.
All right, I'm going to change the question. Is there a motion to authorize expenditure up to $60,000 for the specific purposes of purchasing and installing new scale?
Motion to approve.
So motion by Mr. Wood. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Yance. Now I'll open the floor for discussion. Any discussion?
As far as personnel goes, are we gonna have people manning those scales then?
Yes, we would. What I've discovered is we really want to keep as many people out of the transfer station as don't belong there. We get a lot of mom and pops, grandmas, grandpas that come in with their truckload of little limbs. We'd have to route them all the way down the street, run them through the traffic, run them around the trucks, run them around the transfer station twice to weigh them in and out. We have to weigh everything that comes in by DHEC law. So that would run every resident down to the transfer station, back around the building. But we will have someone man at the old landfill and at the scale, at the new scale house. Yes.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Does this meet our procurement code?
yes, we are already under contract with them, with the scale, with we've got our quotes and all from for maintenance and, any repairs or whatever for the scales.
Here's the money coming.
I have a next question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You go ahead with it. Go ahead.
Where's the money coming? Where's the money come out in our budget? In the budget that they have? Where we're pulling this money from?
That's what he's asking us for. It would be coming out of the contingency fund or the general fund, wouldn't it?
Coming out of the solid waste enterprise fund.
You gonna pull it out of that and run a deficit even further?
Yes.
All right, there's your answer. Solid waste enterprise fund. I started to say that.
And how much of a deficit we already have there?
About $1 million. That's planned, and that's actually,
I know it's planned.
That's actually planned, and that's actually significantly less than we originally anticipated. We originally anticipated up to $2 million because of the work that we've done with the architect and the low bid and all that stuff, from the efforts of Commissioner Councilman Wood, and also with the other savings that we've seen due to the contract price and all. That's almost half. So rather than $2 million being borrowed from the general fund, which we originally anticipated, it's looking like about $1 million.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying, even though you might have planned for more and you're now gonna spend less, but you still do not have the money. The money still is anticipated from the budget until you'll be able to pay it. And that means you're still just getting deeper in debt trying to pay something back. And I just question everything now really because of the coronavirus, the environment that we're in.
these scales are how old?
I just lost my,
Yeah, but we just
I lost my
3 months
batteries.
into our budget.
How old are those scales?
Those scales have got to be at least 30 years old. They've been there.
Those scales, there's 8 cells in there, and I think they're $4,000 per cell. They're
Yeah.
unbelievably expensive. So you're looking at $32,000 for those cells. And the chances of those cells continuing, you're probably gonna end up having to replace those cells anyways. So really, that $55,000 is actually gonna be $10,000 we would have to pay anyways to move them. So that's back down to $45,000. And with these cells being as old as they are, I was quite shocked when I originally replaced some cells in my career to find out they're $4,000 a piece. 30-year-old cells, they got junk and all. Especially now they're going to be handling trash. It's going to be a totally different type of situation. There's going to be a lot of trash coming through there. Those cells are going to go. So you're $45,000 you're down to. You're probably only going to be spending, $8,000 to $10,000 in the long run. Again, we're thinking ahead. So this move is actually going to be replacing something that really needs to be replaced anyways.
Yeah, but we hadn't planned for it.
You have to have these scales run the transfer station.
Yes.
You know, they were 30 years old, not last night. But at the beginning of our budget, we knew that they were that age. That's what planning, that's how we accomplish the goals that we need to have, is by planning appropriately. And in a timely manner, we can get things done and get them done correctly. But the only reason I have a lot of issues with it is the season that we're in. Yeah, we're opening up a transfer station, but we really don't know how it's gonna work because of this different situation that we're in now that we were not in at the beginning of the, when we decided to do this. So we have to realize that we're gonna have other obstacles in our way also. So that's my problem.
Are there any others?
30 years old,
Yes, sir.
about wore out. I mean,
We have to have them tweaked every time they come and adjust and check the weights on them.
But when we get ready to plan for the transfer station, we should have all these plans in mind of what we already had and what we need. And then you can go along and do the things that are needed and plan for them in an orderly and mannerly way to me.
So noted.
I just want to know, when we were in the planning phases and the building phases, I understand we need this and I'm probably going to vote yes for it, but was this not anticipated? Is this not something that the architect or whoever designed the facility looked at? We already had one change order last meeting. We got an additional 55 for the scales. We're looking at putting up a facility to repair the vehicles. I just seems like we're just adding, things are coming up. And I just want to know, did they not anticipate this, or is something we didn't know? Is there gonna be anything else associated with it when we start rerouting?
I don't anticipate anything else, but it was anticipated through the architects and things like the engineering and all that to move the scales to try and save money. But once everything got laid out and you can see the footprint of it in person now, you're routing traffic around and everything, the transfer station itself. And you're asking for an accident, death, because the general public does not need to be around that heavy equipment and everything. And it makes more sense now after we see it laid out. Leave this like it is and ask for a new set of scales to try and keep everybody separated, the heavy equipment operators versus the John Doe public.
And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind us and the public, I'm gonna have to call on you for some muscle memory here. But we were at the point of awarding the contract in the tune of, I think, about $1.7 million. Is that right?
Like 1.4.
1.4. And if we remember, Joe Wood stopped us and said, let's look at it. We went back, we looked at it, You went out for bid and it came in at close to $500,000 savings right there. Yes, we are spending additional $60,000, but in the grand scheme of things, this council, and I, in my opinion, save the taxpayers over $500,000 by this man to my left.
And I agree with that, but when you start adding stuff back, the bid could have changed. I don't remember what all the bids were. I'm just saying future reference.
Right.
I'd like to, I don't know. I'm not saying anybody's at fault here, I'm not pointing fingers or anything.
I understand.
When it's future reference, when we go out and put out bids, if it's supposed to be a certain amount, and I understand things happen, but they could have put, for all I know, this could have completely changed who we even went with for the contract. But like I said, I just wanted to make it a point. That's all.
Right. Any others?
You basically gonna have two systems out there. You're gonna have one system, just like they said, where you bring brush and tires and different things in one way, and then the other direction, and it's just gonna get into a lot of co-mingling if you don't separate it, and this is a good time to separate it. And another thing, the scales are 30 years old, and it's time to buy a new set. So,
Okay, there has been a motion that's been properly seconded. This time I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. And those in opposition with like sign. Motion passes 6-1 with Councilwoman Anderson in opposition.
But my opposition, I would like to make it stated, my opposition is about the planning of this endeavor. I feel like we have a plan build, and every time we turn around, we're coming back asking for more. When we finish the amount of money, it's gonna be the same amount of money we started with in the beginning. If we do not plan and plan correctly, because 30-year scales probably should not have been there. I don't want anybody to get hurt or someone to lose their lives, but all of these things should be considered at the beginning of taking on any kind of project. Thank you.
Next is a request from the fire department, roof repairs. This time I recognize Greg Lemon.
I want to say something right quick.
Go, Mr. Wood.
I'm as guilty as anybody is about over the last years is not doing maintenance on things that we have, just like Hillcrest Square. We pushed air conditioning and heating systems just as far as we could push them. And now we've got lights over there that's gonna save this county hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. We got a heating system that don't save this landfill, this stuff we doing at the landfill gonna save this county money. I mean, it's something that it's got to be done. And I feel a little guilty because we hadn't maintained a lot of things we hadn't done over the years, but now we need to try to start doing some of that.
Okay. The fire service is requesting $21,869 for roof repairs at Wattsville and Madden's fire station. This time I recognize Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, council. This is, we have tried to get these roofs repaired, several contractors. Back in 2014, 15, when we started the work on the fire bond, we did not have roof leaks at these two locations. These leaks have started about a year ago. We have replaced screws in the top, we've done patching, we've replaced the panels. We still have numerous leaks in the bay areas and in the office areas. These are 24-hour staff stations. We do have personnel that sleep here. These roofs do need to be repaired. This is a spray-on acrylic roofing system. You don't take the metal up, you leave it down. They come in, they pressure wash, they clean the roof, then they spray this on top of the roof. We've done the Joanna Fire Department that had numerous leaks with this system, and every leak has been stopped. There is a 10-year life expectancy for this coating, and then after 10 years, you put a second coat on, and it goes on a 5 year, so forth. So I'm asking council tonight just to take from the reserve fund, 21,869, to let us go ahead and get these roofs repaired and fixed at Wattsville, Mass.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to authorize expenditure up to $22,000 coming from the fire reserve fund for the specific purposes of repairing and spraying acrylic on Madden's and Wattsville's fire stations?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDaniel,
Second.
second by Ms. Anderson. Any discussion?
I have two questions. Greg. What's your fund balance in that reserve fund?
I don't have that round off the top of my head. I can't tell you.
And then the other question, you had bids going for 7 stations. How are we looking on the other 5? Was that minimal?
The other 5 are being paid for the bond money. And Joanna's being completed, Reno's being completed, and both of them have worked out great. So I'm just wanting to continue this process of these two.
If you can give him almost a ballpark figure what's in there.
Fund balance and I'm gonna combine the two, the 123, which is the operation and maintenance, the 134, is in excess of 1 million.
I know there's money there.
There's money there.
Those money.
What kind of warranty you got on this?
It has a 10-year warranty, or a 10-year, lifetime warranty, which is 10 years. It's guaranteed not to leak. At the end of 10 years, we'll put a second spray on, and then it takes it on for another 5 years.
Have you, had any thoughts of replacing the metal on it with some standing seam metal? Have you got any kind of bids for that?
We have, I don't have the bids here. We have looked at it. It's about 4 times, 3 or 4 times what this costs. To take the metal, put the metal back.
But it lasts 5 times what this stuff lasts.
Correct, but again, we're trying to look at a cost-effective way.
We learned about standing seam metal than just regular screw down metal. Standing seam
Every
metal.
station we got, except for Ecom's and the Nest station and Thompson Road, are all screwed down, older screw down roofs.
Yeah.
This stuff here it's not, it's a little better than a souped up cool feeling job, right?
Right, it's not cool seal. This actually turns to rubber. It's like a acrylic rubber type material, and it binds to all the metal. So they spray it all around anything that's coming out of the roof, all your vent pipes and everything, and it does not leak.
Any others?
I'd rather see it fixed rather than just patched. And I feel like it's a patched job.
Well, I mean, it's a.
I want, would it be very hard to postpone this and get some bids on replacing the metal?
I mean, I'll be glad to get bids on doing a whole roof. It's going to be a lot more expensive than what this is.
So this is about, what, $10,000 per building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
$1,000 a year per building.
That's Mr. Wood's recommendation.
No,
There's a motion on the table.
That's your recommendation. I'm talking about, the fire.
Greg,
We have researched the acrylic lab, roof. It's been done in a lot of counties around us with great success. Been done in Greenville, Spartanburg, Newberry counties, some in Greenwood counties. It appears to be a great alternative. It is not a 30-year roof. It is a 10-year roof. But I think the cost of it, in 5 years, we're only going to be paying half what you see here to do the other. So you get a 15-year roof. I think it's a good product, and it's what we're doing on the other stations. If we replace all the metal with standing seam, then I would have to come back to council on the bond project and ask for more money, but I won't be able to afford the roofs. So that's the reason why we're trying to look at alternative. It's still a good product. It's going to fix the leaks. It fills the entire roof. The whole roof is done. They line the gutters, downspouts, they spray it all, they seal everything. I still think it's a good product.
Okay, we have a motion that is properly seconded. We'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
Next is first reading on ordinance number 886, repealing ordinance number 705. This time I recognize Mr. Crookshanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a natural progression since 886 passed, which is the RV ordinance. There is no longer any need to continue the language set forth in 705. So this would remove 705 from our ordinance books. And we would certainly recommend this so to prevent any further confusion.
You've heard the recommendations. There a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 886.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Patterson.
Second.
Second by Ms. Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. Next is first reading ordinance number 887, Vulcan land transfer. Again, I'll recognize Mr. Crookshanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is again, a natural progression from the approval last meeting of the contract agreement with Vulcan as far as I won't say transfer station, not transfer station, convenience center that's out in the Gray Court area. This starts the process of transferring that land to Vulcan in exchange for the leased land that Vulcan will provide following January 1st.
You've heard the recommendation from Mr. Crookshanks. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 887 on first reading?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of ordinance 887.
Motion by Ms. Anderson,
Second.
second by Mr. Patterson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is 8F, request EMS mobile CAD upgrade. This time I'll recognize our Director of EMS, Matt Pennington.
What I'm requesting is a little bit my fault. Some of it I didn't plan for, some of it wasn't anticipated. We need to upgrade some of our routers in our truck, and some of the routers that we had are not going to be eligible to run the mobile CAD system. And some of the mounting and docking stuff that's required for the trucks is going to have to be changed. So that's why we're coming back and asking for additional funds to make those necessary upgrades to make mobile CAD work.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to authorize expenditure up to $45,000 for computer mounts to allow for safer mounting? And how many vehicles, Matt?
It'll be a total of
20? 20 vehicles to be paid for from the EMS Capital Fund 601.
Is that coming out of the EMS fund?
Yes, sir. EMS Capital Fund.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion by Mr. Carroll. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Second by Mr. Yance. Any discussion?
I have a question about the balance. According to the report we were given earlier tonight, out of 103,000 you spent right at 45,000, leaving you a balance of 63 and some change. Is anything else coming out of that 63, or will this be it?
This should be it.
The Wi-Fi upgrade, is that a in-motion gateways you're putting in, or?
Credit point.
Credit points?
I don't know what y'all just saying, but that's okay. I think that's language that you people understand.
All right.
So in order to get an internet access into the vehicle, you have to have an access point that gets a wireless signal and then sends it to his equipment. And a mobile hotspot souped up is called a cradle point. So if you had a really souped up Wi-Fi, it's called a cradle point. And they put those in motion gateway is what goes in the truck.
Thank you. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Does that work on flip phone?
Yeah,
Any other questions or comments? Now that we've gotten our lesson on souped up Wi-Fi. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And, we've got a motion that's been properly seconded. I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. Thank you. That concludes the new business. Next, we'll move into public comment. 15 minutes have been set aside for public comment. If you would like to address council, I don't believe anyone has signed up. Seeing none, we will move into county council comments. I'll begin my right, your left. Mr. Carroll.
I just want to thank everybody for the work they're doing on council for the county, and everybody to remember to vote between now and Tuesday or on Tuesday.
Mr. McDaniel.
Just want to remind everybody to vote between now and Tuesday.
Ms. Anderson.
I'm gonna get over what the other gentleman said, but I also want to let you know that Saturday, the office will be open from 9 to 1. So you got another extra day, so take advantage of all these given to you.
I would like to read the definition of democracy. Democracy is government in which power and civic responsibility are exercised by all adult citizens directly or through their freely elected representatives. This is our opportunity to exercise our constitutional right and responsibility, and I thank those who have willingly agreed to step up and serve all the way from the local level, all the way to Washington. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your participation in this democratic process in this great country that we all love. And that occurs this Tuesday with this election. Mr. Wood.
Excuse me, could I ask one other question?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
did have, on our chart we had today, I was trying to remember what that whispering wave fee, I guess we have, do you remember, whatever it is?
I'll be glad to address
Okay,
that.
please, because I forgot about it.
Councilman Carroll already asked me about that. There is a process through Public Works if a neighborhood, for example, wants to have a road accepted into the county system. They have to get the right of way and they have to pay the bill to ensure that the road meets county standards before we accept it. And essentially what happens, they do a referendum petition and their bill will be elevated for a period of time for the repayment. The county basically does the road and we lend the money and they pay it back through the assessment. So I think that was just about ready to pay out.
I remembered, but I
Yes,
couldn't
ma'am.
remember exactly what it was.
That's
Clear because I couldn't explain something.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you much.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm glad you said that because it reminded me, I failed to ask council for this. You received in your packet this right here, asking for veterans that you know who are willing to, well, may not be willing because most veterans won't because of their humbleness, but to be recognized and lead us in the pledge. So if you have that this evening, if you would give that to Ms. Walsh, council members. I have my names, but I don't have the contact information. But if you have it, please give that to Ms. Walsh before you leave. Mr. Wood.
I just want everybody to vote, and I hope they vote for Trump.
Mr. John, I'm going on. I'm going on here. Okay, Mr. John.
This, is council open back to public for veterans to do this?
Not yet. We have not officially reopened because of social distancing, but what Ms. Walsh is trying to do is to get people lined up so that when we do open it back up fully, that she will have people to access and call so that she doesn't scramble trying to find veterans. And she just asked for our help on that. It's a good question, though. Mr. Patrick.
I'll just echo everybody else, don't forget to get out and vote. I talked to Ms. West this afternoon. We've already had just a hair over 8,000 people vote absentee, which is phenomenal. And historically, we run about 35 to 40% absentee anyways, so that's pretty good.
Was that compared to 4 years ago, do you know? Being that high, especially this early before.
I think it's 1,600 total last time,
Really?
if I remember right.
It's
Good.
of course, whether you, and there's no absent, no excuse absentee, you don't have a reason. You can just scroll downstairs, there's been a line around this building every day this week.
I've heard.
So it's been great. So like the chairman said, exercise your constitutional right. And also remember all of our emergency service folks, in your prayers and in your daily doings. The senseless death of the sheriff's deputy in Greenville was saddening. It ain't happened to anybody anytime. And those guys put their life on the line for very little. And, I'm grateful, and we should all be grateful for their service.
I'm so,
All right, go ahead.
coming into Lawrence, I hope everyone noticed what I did. The dome on this building here has coming together. If you hadn't looked at it, look at it when you leave here. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, before you adjourn, I just want to remind Mr. Camby and council, I have to need your signatures before you leave, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Patterson. Second by Mr. Carroll. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. 7-0.